Father, before we went live, you and I were talking about just how God has abundantly grown your platforms, from YouTube and Facebook, and you have millions of people around the world that tune in and watch you and listen to you. And yes, glory be to God for that. But to give you some credit there, I think what so many of us Catholics and even Protestants that are pulled to you, that love to listen to you, I think the thing that's so beautiful that you do so well is it's this delicate dance of not backing down from truth, but being
Mhm.
so compassionate and Christ-like as you're sharing it. And I think you have that mastered, because it's like, if I want to know something that's biblical, that's Catholic doctrine, it is like, I'm going to go to Father Ripperger or I'm going to go to Father Alar. Like, you are my top two that I'm like, they're going to give it to me straight. But you have this beautiful nature about you that you just present it in such a compassionate way, Father, yet you just don't back down from the truth. And I think that's why God has taken you and just blew it up. Would you agree?
And it has, and we're blessed for that. And first of all, thank you, because I always hear some people when I say, well, abortion is never acceptable, marriage is always between a man and a woman, that I'm a hater, I'm a Nazi. It's crazy what we sometimes have to face, but it's minor compared to what our Lord dealt with. So,
Yes.
but you are absolutely right. Before COVID, I remember going to our provincial superior at the time, Father Kaz, and saying, because I was the director of the Association of Marian Helpers, and I said, I don't know how we are going to survive.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. I don't know. But what happened, unbeknownst to us, is how it was going to take off, was Brother Mark, this unsung hero here, came to us with a technical background. And how is divine providence? Literally, I am not exaggerating, less than a week before the March famous close down of COVID in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
Brother Mark went to our superior, our provincial superior, and said, hey, Father, in case we ever want to live stream a mass from the shrine, maybe once a year, our vows or our Easter vigil or whatever it might be, um, we really need to do some work. We have bad lighting. We have no good sound. We don't have digital, a platform. We don't have mixers, soundboards, nothing. And he said, would you approve me getting this? It's all on sale right now. And how ironic is this? He approved it. Mark ordered it 3 days before COVID hit. Within 24 hours of COVID hitting, you couldn't get that stuff for a year. We would have never survived, but we got it, and we became one of the first communities live streaming during COVID. And we started live streaming the Mass, the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, the Rosary. Then I started doing the Explaining the Faith talks on Saturday mornings at 11. And then EWTN approached me and said, we would like to make a TV show out of this. And we named that Living Divine Mercy. And that's now in 100 countries, 400 million households. And I always laugh because people say, well, Father, not everybody watches. And I always say, okay, if 1% watches, that's 4 million households. 4 million households if 1% watches, because it reaches 400 million. So praise be to God that despite our brokenness, despite our failures in so many ways, that God brought this platform as what I call the new evangelization.
Yes. And, I have a love-hate relationship with social media, because
Yeah.
myself and my co-host, Abby Johnson, we faced that backlash. Our monetization was taken several years ago because we
Yes.
were speaking truths. Abortion is evil. Marriage is between a man and a woman. There are two genders, basic things. And we
Yes.
were called, how are you even Catholic? You're not Christian, like you're hateful,
Mm-hmm.
you're bigots. And again,
Mm-hmm.
if this is the little persecution to take for our Lord and what he's done for us, then so be
Yes.
it. Um, but I
Correct.
feel like it is, we're just looking, even those, we're all sinners, we're all lost, but deep down, we're all innately yearning for truth. We really, really are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am just so blessed for you. So every night after my kids and I do a rosary and divine chaplet, I always go to one of your talks and I listen to it as I'm going to sleep. And not that it's, you have a very
Oh,
calming voice too. So sometimes I don't always finish.
I've heard people say, I hear people say I put them to sleep. So praise be to God if it can help in any way.
Well, it is, you do. And I'm like, darn it, I have to go back tomorrow night, and finish it. But it's so informative. And then, the mother in me, I was a teacher before and a writer, so I'm thinking, man, everything this man has to do. And then all of the preparation that I'm sure maybe some people really don't think about. I'm like, all of the preparation that
Tons
has
of
to go
time.
into this, so
Yeah.
much time. And
Yeah.
so
Like
I
for
just,
instance, yeah, no, thank you. Because I'm glad you mentioned that, because that sometimes if I do make an honest mistake or something, I always beg for mercy, because I'm up always on Friday nights all night. I rarely go to bed Friday nights because I push sometimes too long into the end of the week to prepare. And I do a lot of controversial topics. Like I did on pride. I did one on woke. I did one on transgenderism. I did one on Freemasonry.
yeah.
I've done these talks that are controversial, and boy, you better have your facts. I did one on human trafficking. I did one on the church sex abuse scandal. So these are hot button items, and boy, if you don't have your facts correct, you'll get eaten alive. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but thank you for recognizing that.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I want to thank you because I know the expectations of a priest and all of your regular normal duties, at minimum duties, are immense. And so I just, everyone watching this, that's why we need to pray for our priests, especially our holy priests like Father Alar, who go above and beyond to do these. And so I'm going to throw myself under the bus, Father. I just turned 40 last year. And as a practicing Catholic, I feel like I really never took it seriously, praying for our priests as much as we should. And so now, anytime, it's just like even a Hail Mary, we think, oh, I don't have time to do a rosary right now. I don't. The smallest prayers can go such a long way. So, everyone, offer your next rosary for Father Alar. Say a Hail Mary for him. Ask our Blessed Mother to wrap her mantle around him, protect him, sustain him. Because truly, Father, I feel like, and as we're seeing the church go through her passion, I feel like we truly have to pray for our priests, our bishops, our cardinals, the Pope. It's under immense pressure, immense attack. We're seeing a lot of division. And I know the Lord's calling me. Sometimes I'm too outspoken. I'm self-righteous when I get very protective over the church. So every week in confession, I have to say, Father, I I was complaining about something the Pope did. I was complaining about this priest who is not holy like, and then I feel God and Our Lady being like, okay, Reagan, you're our bulldog. Thank you for protecting us. But sometimes it's like, maybe just pray. Maybe instead of complaining, pray more. And so I just want to put that out there, Father. Um, in such a time of as confusion and division, we really have to pray and fast more. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and thank you for asking for prayers for priests, because I mean, people do not believe me when I tell this, but this is the honest truth. I can look right in and see the honest truth. Um, the I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but I live on 4 hours of sleep, and that's not by I choose to only get 4 hours of sleep. It's just my body cannot really, for some reason. Again, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. I don't sleep more than 4 to 5 hours. A good night will be 5 hours. An average night is four. Commonly, sometimes three. And that means there's 18 to 20 hours left in the day. So my day, and it's 7 days a week, is 18 hours to 20 hours. It is. Now, of course, in that is prayer and exercise and meals and, and stuff like that. So it's not like 18 solid hours of just ministry. But the day is structured around getting up at 5 a.m. and beginning with prayer till midnight, where I say my night prayer. And in between is the ministry and the constant administrative aspect. So yeah, please pray for the priest, because I delayed my vocation. I was engaged to you're coming from Lake Norman there. I was engaged to a beautiful girl. I called her the prettiest girl in Lake Norman in North Carolina, and I was waiting to see if the church would change her discipline on allowing priests or married men to become priests. Now, I am the biggest advocate, even though I was the biggest advocate for married priests, because I wanted both. I wanted to be able to marry her and be a priest. But now, after doing this, I've been ordained over 10 years. I am absolutely the biggest proponent of priests cannot marry. And it's not because the church is being uncaring or unduly burdensome. It's 100% because if I did have a physical wife, somebody would suffer. Either the church would only get me half the time, or my wife would only get me half the time. And then what about yourself? You have to have a little of self time. So I now am 100% convinced that the bride for the priest is the church. And this is, there's no way I could do what I'm doing and have a wife and a family at home. It would be so unfair to them, and it would be unfair to the church if I had a wife and family at home. It's not because the church doesn't care. I mean, you couldn't do this. I worked in corporate America. I had my own business. You can't do things 18 hours a day if you don't absolutely love it. If you hate what you're doing or you're not into what you're doing, you can't do it. And so the only way that I can do this is because I love the priesthood. I can't imagine not being a priest. It's funny because when I told my family I was going to become a priest, my mom cried for 3 days. My dad said, "You will never make it as a priest." And my 82-year-old aunt said, "I thought you liked girls." And I laughed because I said, "Aunt Helen, I was engaged. How could you ask that?" But the point is, if you don't absolutely love it, you could never do this. And to me, that's the priests that have fallen, is because they've fallen out of love with the love. I mean, I make mistakes all the time. I'm the sinner. I still can't believe God called me to the priesthood, but I think he knows my heart and my love for the priesthood, and he allows my brokenness. I think the ones who fall and have to be removed are the ones that have fallen out of love with a church and the priesthood.